and be, for want of a better, humble fucking slave. He's obsessed with him. He can't look and see a black man doing what Jude's doing and think that that's not uppity. He's not an uppity. That's where I'm going with that. That's where that comes down to.
I mean, that's some speech, that, Wrighty. Wrighty, when I draw towards, on Instagram the other day, and obviously there's a lot of hoo-ha around Bellingham, and I think you're absolutely right. There's a comment that you made off the back of a story that was brewing around Jude Bellingham being unhappy. You said they need to create this kind of beef because there's nothing else to talk about till the World Cup, so it's going to be all the way to the World Cup. They hate that they can't get to him. They hate that they can't negatively influence his club career like they have done with so many before him. A blessed young man with talent and love in abundance. When you said they hate that they can't get to him, what do you mean?
They can't. Well, look, his parents have kept him away from the Premier League. You know what I mean? He doesn't play in the Premier League. He kept him away from the journalists. They can't get to him through, like I said in there, through his club, like through Real Madrid, so they can try and like taint the way Real Madrid's thinking and say, yeah, we're going to keep him in line and that. They cannot get to this guy, and this is somebody who is very much an achiever. He goes out, he's a winner, he wants to do it, he wins. What they said about Jude not celebrating that, it was complete fabrication, a lie. So what they're trying to build something because England have qualified so easy. They've not conceded any goals. They've won all the games easy. So they need to have something else to pile on top of the narrative. You know, you've got a manager who's very, very honest in everything he said. We spoke to him, right? He's really candid in how he speaks, you know, and he said that. We asked him a question. I said, are you worried about, having any regrets about your honesty and giving so much detail? He said, no, because I say the same thing in there. So they know that, them journalists will know that, and they will try to ask him something that he will answer that they can run with again. And I'm worried for Jude simply because he's somebody that they can't control. You can't control him. Obviously, coming off of the who else and what he done in the World Cup, he's showing people that, you know, I'm here, I'm black, I'm proud, I'm ready to go. All that vibe is something that a certain man can't deal with.
I agree with you. A personal experience, and I've spoken about this in 2016, that Raheem Sterling came to see me in the tournament and said that he felt as though he was being persecuted, that it was unfair and it was basically not relating to football. And I remember at the time me giving him a completely and utterly inadequate answer, and I've spoken about this publicly since, where I said, look, Raheem, it's because of your quality and who you are and what you are that they're criticising you. I remember they did this with Wayne Rooney. I actually name-checked him. They did this with David Beckham. They did this with Paul Gascoigne. The best players, the biggest names. But actually what I didn't read at the time, and to be fair, what he was actually crying out and asking me for help for, was around the fact that this wasn't relating to his football performances, which it was with maybe yourself or with Gazza or with Bex. Yeah. It was more around the colour of his skin. Everything and else. This persecution around how if he had a car that was this and another player had a car that was this that was white, there was a difference in reporting of it. Do you think that is happening again in front of our eyes here?
You know something, I remember saying I had to do something for GQ not long ago, and I said I don't think as Englishmen, there's certain Englishmen, I'm an Englishman, I can't hide from that. Even though when I was younger, people would say, yeah, but you're not really English, are you? Yeah, I'm English. I don't think they're ready for a black superstar like that who can move like Jude's moving. You know, they can't touch him, like I just said. He goes out there, he performs, he does what he does. He says, who else? It's too uppity for these people. Something that they used to say back in the day. If you're a black guy or a black man who's, you know what, I put it in a football term. So everybody, they love N'Golo Kante. He's a humble black man, gets on with what he's doing. I'm not saying that he's an Uncle Tom or anything, just saying that's how his personality is. But if you get a Pogba or a Bellingham and you get that kind of energy, that does not sit well with the people, that kind of person. So someone like Jude, for some reason, frightens these people because of his capability and the inspiration he can give. It's something that you're taught when you're, as a black man, when you're going out there, you just want to try and do the best you can and keep your head down and be, for want of a better, humble fucking slave. This is where this is dragging up from that kind of energy. Because if you are outspoken black and doing that kind of, playing to that kind of level and not caring, that frightens certain people. And that's what's going to happen with Jude. This guy who I'm telling you about in respects of he's obsessed with him. He's moving off of that energy. He can't look and see a black man doing what Jude's doing and think that that's not uppity. He's not an uppity. That's where I'm going with that. That's where that comes down to.
I mean, that's some speech, that, Wrighty. And I think it just definitely is some. Because I remember with Raheem coming to see me, placing it back into, I was thinking, right, I've got to pick him up because he was low.
It's very hard.
He was really low. He was down on for him to come.
Because you don't know where to go. There's nowhere.
And he had nowhere to go. So he comes and sees me, and I've not got the ability, the probably education or the understanding to be able to give him the answers and the understanding that he was coming to me with. And I remember at the time, and it only actually, I remember seeing, it was something on X a year later where it showed an article, the articles on Raheem, where he had a car, house, jewellery, a watch, and articles about a white player and what the headlines were and the difference. And you could see this complete and utter bias that just right in front, you thought, oh, now I get what he means. I only saw it a year or so later. But that's something that I can see at the moment. It is happening with Jude Bellingham.
You know what? Again, it's a tiring thing. It's a tiring exercise to talk about. And as soon as I sent a message to Jude, right, saying, listen, my friend, be ready. You know, I feel something you can feel. It's like
when was this, Wright?
Before the England game.
This just now?
Yeah, before the England game. And I just said, just be ready.
But it's good that you can help him, right?
Well, the thing is, you know what the thing is, though, and I'd say, and maybe, you know, of course it's private, but he said, ready for what? And I said, listen, it's coming, and I'm here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be on this side. So, because what happens is that it just comes and it just keeps coming. It's like a tsunami. You don't, and unless you play well and do something to kind of, and that just shifts it for a little while, because as soon as you play again and you don't play well, it comes back. And so he said, what's coming? I said, just be ready for it. And it's here.
It's funny with Bellingham, I think when the older we are and the more we're sort of away from the game, if you like, you don't know players. Maybe, obviously, you've got a bit of a relationship with you, but we don't know players that well. And
22 as well, you know, 22.
Yeah. But he's the one, right? Sometimes we'll see players, won't we, around like the interview areas, or they might join us and that. And when we do Champions League stuff for CBS, now and again, if you go on the road, you go in the mix zone, and players have to do interviews. It's contractual. And when I read reports about Bellingham, sort of how he's perceived or how he's supposed to be around the camp, and I'm not just saying this, he is the best player who sort of speaks to me. He asked me about my son. How's he doing? He knows where he's playing, how he's doing for Malta. You'd have a laugh, a joke, and he looks genuinely interested in speaking to you. It's not just like, sort of moved on. So you read things, and that probably does influence people, doesn't it? We know that, how powerful the press are. And listen, we're part of the media as well. We shouldn't forget that. But he is completely different when I see him face to face than what I read about him.
About him.
Yeah, 100%. He is an absolute diamond.
You know, it's a shame, because I think that his parents they read the room very well. They don't speak to no journalists again. It's everything what you're not.
It's never a bad thing, because
you know what
we had. Remember Des was on. Des said the same. But would it help if they did? You know, to see that other side.
Then you have to have somebody who will go to him, and then that guy holds you to. Okay, I can speak for Jude. They don't.
But all players have to do that, right?
But he doesn't need to do that. This is what I'm saying.
No player really wants to do it. But I'm just saying, if they could see the other side from, not because obviously they have to do it when they're in Europe. They have to do it because they're contract wise. And James just saying
to the journalist.
Yeah. Like most footballers I know don't really want to speak to journalists, but they think it's part of their job.
Is that enough?
I'm just saying, no, and I'm not saying, but I'm just saying we don't see that other side to the kid. You know what I mean? That James just spoke about, and maybe that would just help. That instead of getting bogged down by what the media are chasing and trying to paint a picture of the kid.
Well, maybe you look at it from the parents. They're not fussed about how he has to deal with it. They just want to keep that away from him.
And that's fine. Of course, that's
which
their
is
choice.
a decision they made, because you go on.
How Jude Bellingham is definitely England's biggest star. He's playing for Real Madrid. He's the biggest talent. So naturally, I think journalists are going to ask about the fact that Thomas Tuchel is leaving him out of the team. That's natural, I think, because he's such an. It's that balance, isn't it? And that fine balance of being able to make sure that you can ask the questions about the football where it doesn't become a persecution. That's what I think you're talking about, isn't it?
Without doubt. You know the thing as well, I don't think Jude's got any problem with Morgan Rogers being the number 10. He's got to dislodge him, because Jude will believe he can dislodge him. And you'd like to think that Morgan Rogers will say, well, I'm going to try and make sure you don't dislodge me. I know how good you are. That's what England needs. That's how England end up winning the World Cup, is that great players have to wait their turn, and when they come in,
competition
Thank you, Roy. So Jude ain't got no problem with that, but it's all the fluff around it to try and build more onto that. And then anything happens, like they say he threw his arms up when he got substituted, and Tuchel said, well, I didn't see that. You know, I didn't see that. I'll have to look at that. He didn't say that. Yes, he did celebrate with the guys. So that's those little foolishness thing, those foolishness kind of actions that they're trying to take is what kind of just slowly builds, like what Jamie said. Seems like a nice guy, but people, like you say, Roy, you read about it, you listen to what you're reading and you think, yeah, he looks like that. Look at him. Who's not vexed if you get taken off? Who isn't?
But you know what you're saying right there, what Tuchel said at the end of the game. So that you see the clip on social media, you think, oh, Tuchel's maybe having a little pop at Bellingham.
Yeah.
But he's getting asked the question, he's getting pushed into that direction. He's got no idea. He didn't really know, did he? As soon as the question's asked, oh, we'll have to have a look at that. And then, but, you know, we want players to be together. And before you know it, it becomes something, doesn't it? But from Tuchel's point of view, I actually think he's handled it pretty well. In that, I think if you go back to the last tournament, it did feel like it was Bellingham. It was just like all about Bellingham, and he was scoring the goals. And it was like, if Bellingham's not playing, England can't do nothing. And it probably takes me back to sort of Stevie at Liverpool. And I always remember something Ferguson said about Brian Robson when he first come to United, where sometimes you have this figure, and everyone feels if they're not playing, you can't win. It's almost like, oh my God, they're not playing. And I think what Thomas Tuchel's done in the last, I think it's in a good way. It's that like, we know he's a great player. We want to fight for his position like everybody else. He'll be in the team. He'll be in that position when the World Cup starts. I have no doubt about that. But there's also probably this feeling in the team as well that if Jude is injured or the manager decides to leave him, we can still win a game. We can still play. We can still have a decent tournament. So I actually think it's been really good for Jude and really good for Thomas Tuchel and the squad. What's happened over the last couple of months in terms of the selection and who's playing. No one's got a 100% starter. There's other players come in and done well. So I think Tuchel's handled it really well in terms of the selection and sending a message to the rest of the squad.
They always need someone to be the bad guy, someone to be the scapegoat, and I think it seems like it's going to be me, and whether people think I played well or not, I give absolutely everything for my country and from the team. People talk about my body language all the time. I get frustrated because I want to win. I don't like losing. The only thing I care about is the team and the team winning. The only thing I care about. It's the only thing I want in football is to be able to win trophies, plonk them on tables and go and party with the lads that I've just suffered and sacrificed for and with. That's all I care about in football. So when people make stuff like that, that's what hurts me the most. It becomes a little bit personal. I've seen stuff about why I haven't done press interviews and stuff like that, and is something wrong with me? And it hurts a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Because I know that it hurts my parents, I know that it hurts my brother, I know that my friends get hurt by it.
Ian Wright says on social media, on Bellingham, they need to create this kind of beef because there's nothing else to talk about to the World Cup. So it's going to be all this way, all the way to the World Cup. They hate that they can't get to him. This is the media he's referring to. They hate that they can't negatively influence his club career like they have done to so many before him. A blessed young man with talent and love in abundance. The standout line for me in there, Simon, they hate that they can't negatively influence his club career like they have done to so many before him. Like whom?
Well, there is an element, and I believe in that there's an element of mentality amongst certain sections of the British media which loves to build people up so they can knock them down. He's a precocious talent. He's a remarkable talent. And with these sort of talents comes a slight edge to their character. I don't see in so many other countries, and I've lived in various ones, where their heroes get whittled down so quickly as they do over here. Now, I also think that Jude, I don't think that interview was particularly wise, because if you show people your Achilles heel, they'll keep on kicking at it. What Ian has said is right, to some extent, that is curated. Like I said to you the other day, Thomas Tuchel comes out and has a go at Jude Bellingham. What was the genesis of this conversation? The genesis was a journalist asking him a question about Jude Bellingham's body language. What's the fixation? Is Jude Bellingham, that's Jude Law, is Jude Bellingham supposed to come off doing a tap dance and really being happy that he's been substituted? Most top players don't like being substituted. So why are they after Jude? I think they're after Jude, or sections of the media are after Jude, because I think some of Jude's attitude last summer in the Euros was a tad truculent and belligerent and a little bit entitled, that the British press weren't all bowing at the England football team's feet and saying how wonderful they were and how they were beyond criticism. The English press, nowhere near as frenetically as in the past, went after the England team, because of the performances. They weren't impressed by the performances, and they called them fairly and honestly, without any particular bias.
In your view, did they call them fairly?
Yeah, I think so. I think England's,
without any bias.
I don't think there was any bias last year.
Right.
I think that England's performances were dull, were listless, and uninspiring, and and very pedestrian to watch.
So where's the idea then that the media are manufacturing some sort of beef here?
So Jude subsequently, and I saw him do it to you, and I saw him do it in press conferences, came out with this attitude, which is, I'm not entitled to this kind of criticism. I don't like it. There's a witch hunt against us, and we shouldn't be having to be subjected to it.
Well, he said to me outside a lift one morning, as you know, in Dusseldorf, I don't think the media are with us. They're not with us. But it's not the media's job to be a cheerleader.
Correct. It's also not a media's job to take people down, but there is a delight in that. And there's been many occasions.
But are they doing that?
Well, I think there's a section of the media, not all of the media, and I'd like people like Ian, when they make these observations, to be bolder and say who they're referring to, because it's easier to be very global in your observation, then you don't get made accountable for it, do you? But I do agree with the principles of what he's saying, that you're building up, creating, and the very existence of shows, full stop, and the content delivery mechanisms that require people to create outcomes, whether it be anti-Scottish dislike in a football tournament, or it be Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham is a remarkably successful young man.
He's brilliant.
A precocious talent that should be celebrated by this country.
He's a phenomenon. He
should be celebrated.
Yeah.
And the balance between pulling him up for legitimate misbehaviour and going after him for silly little indiscretions like getting upset when he's getting substituted is what we're talking about here. And what Tuchel's doing, I think, is being cleverer than I gave him credit for yesterday. What I was giving him credit for yesterday was creating a culture inside this dressing room which he's the boss. What I also think he's doing is making sure that Jude Bellingham isn't a gift that keeps on giving to certain sections of the media and turned into a toxic conversation.
Yeah.
So if you take away Jude, don't give it to him. Don't give it to the media. Don't come off a football field making a 4-act play about it. You want to do that, do it in a dressing room. Don't do it.
It's my belief, Simon, that in the media, Ian Wright saying on social media, the media, they hate it that they can't get to him.
Well, they did get to him. He just did a documentary where he told him.
But here's the thing. Do you honestly think there's a newspaper newsroom anywhere where the editor is saying to the top sports journalist, the top sports reporter, start getting at Jude?
Yeah.
Start getting at him.
Yeah.
Get under his skin. We'll write the headlines.
Come on.
Get under his skin.
Come on. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest about this industry. If you think that, why would they do that?
Because it sells stories, creates content, and makes noise, and people read it, and there's a desire for it. There is no busier environment than when in a newsroom when the tragedies happened in this country. There is no more energy and no more vitality than when something awful happens. And something awful is Jude Bellingham behaving poorly in a football framework in this conversation, for the purpose of this conversation.
No, you've got to separate news from sport. This is a sports story. This is sports coverage.
But news has morphed into entertainment now. Sports entertainment. So you're not talking about Jude Bellingham, the footballer. You're talking about Jude Bellingham, the player, and what he's supposed to represent in the eyes of people that are writing about him. So yes, I do believe that there are bitter old hacks that sit in offices creating content on the back of what they think is going to create controversy.
Is that based on experience that you have had in your time at Palace with the media?
Yeah, of course. I used to walk into press conferences and go, right, I'm going to set the tone. Because it's manager number 173. Yes, I went in the dressing room last week and did it again. Yes, I did. That's how I started my press conferences, because I used to dislike them intensely because I knew the way they were going. That's why I always say try to make a first impression, because if you do something once, the media are so lazy at times. Not all media. The media are so lazy at times. That's the way they'll perceive you forever. And you'll never lose that title because it's an easy go-to, especially if it's something controversial. I went into a dressing room relating it to me once in my seventh game as owner of Crystal Palace. In my 500th game, I was still being told, after having never gone in the dressing room in that state again, that I was an interfering club owner that spent his time in the dressing room, because it's an easy, lazy go-to. That's why you've got to be very, very careful about how you give the media access to certain things in your life or what you represent yourself as. Because I do, in fact, and even more so, ever more so now, that everyone's competing for so much airtime. There's so many broadcasters. There's so many content delivery mechanisms. Social media sets the tone, and mainstream media now colours in the picture. So you've got a situation where it does create that. It's nowhere near as bad as it was before. Look what they used to do. Look what they used to do to Graham Taylor.
Oh, exactly.
Put him on the front page of a newspaper.
Turn up head.
Yeah. And that kind of newspaper reporting. But don't believe it's gone. It's just becoming a bit more refined, less overt, more covert, but it's still there, and there's still envy, and envy is a very ugly part of the fabric of this society because they don't celebrate people doing well. If someone does well, someone gave it to him. He's lucky. His dad was rich. He come from a silver spoon. He doesn't have to do anything himself. That sort of attitude, rather than go, look at that fella. How did he get there? Can I do that too?
You'd have probably been in England squads with Paul Gascoigne, who had every move he made analysed to the nth degree. Then it was David Beckham. Then it was Wayne Rooney. And it feels like Bellingham is the latest where everything he does we have to talk about for 3 hours after he's done it.
Yeah, we do, which is strange, really. We know he's a wonderful player. I mean, he's got moments. He's got world-class moments. I'm not sure he's a world-class player. I think he's got a way to go before he's that. I think he has to play a lot longer, more consistent with his overall performances. Harry Kane should be that superstar, but we never talk about negative vibes about Harry Kane, ever, do we? We never, ever do. You know, he's a model professional. He's a complete team man. He's exactly what Thomas Tuchel wants. The reason I say
not every player has to act the same, do they?
Of course, you can be different. I think if I was just a fan looking in and I hadn't managed before, and this image still haunts me, and people will remember it. Sarri at Wembley with Kepa. Is it Kepa?
Yeah.
He refused to come off that game. I remember watching that on TV and going behind my sofa and giving it, come off the pitch, please, mate. I was embarrassed for the kid. You cannot show any... Rob talks about it there, it's frustration more than dissent. Frustration is dissent. Frustration is dissent. In the public's eye, when you're looking at it, all they're looking is the reaction of Jude Bellingham coming off that pitch. And his reaction last night allows people now to be talking about it and debating it. Yes, he's a good player. Yes, he turns up on a big occasion. He's done that for England. He plays for one of the biggest clubs in the world. Would he be in my squad? 100% he'd be in my squad. Is that going to be good enough for Jude Bellingham? No. He wants to play. He wants to play every single minute. He wants to decide when he comes off the pitch and when he stays on the pitch. Thomas Tuchel will not have that. He's the boss, and I love this about Thomas Tuchel. He makes the decisions. No matter who you are, I'm going to make the calls. We know how strong we are in the number 10 position. We've got a lot of options, a lot of guys who can come on fresh and change things up. Morgan Rogers has done nothing wrong in that position. It's his shirt at the moment. I know we've got another get-together in March. That's going to be crucial to who actually starts the tournament for England. But we're talking about this, and I don't think it was a lot. I really don't. I don't think it was a massive
And that's the point that I was going to make. It was interesting, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, who worked with Gareth Southgate in the last coaching group, he said recently, this is the problem with the English. You're allowed to be good, but you're not allowed to have self-belief. Self-belief is sometimes taken as being arrogant. Are we allowed to say I'm the best since sliced bread? Are we allowed to say that? No. And there must have been a time in your career where your number came up and you thought, but by the time he gets to the edge of the pitch, he's fine. And you wouldn't want players to be like, oh, well, I've been sub for England, off I go. There must be a
no.
It's not like he's
you can be disappointed.
Ignored the manager on his way off, is it?
Of course not. But no one else, we're not ever talking about anyone else do that. We've never seen anyone else throw their arms up and dissent and say no. It seems like a trend at the moment. Vinny Jr. has done it, and his teammate, he's watched him with Xabi Alonso. That was disgraceful what the boy done there. You feel like you're bigger than the manager, and certainly you're trying to be bigger than the club. Now, Jude Bellingham is no bigger than, he's not certainly bigger than any player in that group. It's about the collective, and he won't be bigger than any England player or the England shirt, ever. So do what you're told. If you wanted to come off the pitch, yes, you're going to be frustrated, but don't show any public emotion. A show of dissent, and that was what it was. It was minor, in my opinion. I think we are making a lot of it. But just come off the pitch, because he's not a stupid boy. He knows people are going to be talking about it, and that's exactly what we're doing this morning.
Jude Bellingham has dominated headlines after his emotional reaction to being substituted during England's recent World Cup qualifying win against Albania. The midfielder, known for his fierce competitiveness, reacted visibly when he saw his number go up in the 84th minute. He threw his arms in frustration, a gesture that cameras quickly captured. Although he shook Thomas Tuchel's hand as he walked off, the gesture sparked debate. England manager Thomas Tuchel addressed the incident publicly, saying Bellingham must accept his decisions and show respect to the team and coaching staff. Tuchel emphasized that substitutions are tactical, not personal, and that emotional reactions can send the wrong message to teammates. This is not the first time Tuchel has commented on Bellingham's attitude, which is why the issue has grown into a wider discussion about his discipline and maturity. Supporters, including former striker Ian Wright, argue the media is blowing the situation out of proportion, saying elite players often hate being subbed because they want to contribute. The debate highlights a larger question: how should star players balance passion with professionalism? Ultimately, Bellingham's reaction matters because he isn't just any player. He's seen as a future leader of the team, and every action is magnified on the world stage.